Good morning. I'm Tim Lindemuth from Manhattan, Kansas, and I've been a collector of the 20-cent flag stamp for more than 40 years since it was available in the post offices years ago. And for the past year and a half, I've been researching the major counterfeit of this issue. And my talk today is called Pep Hills, Porn, and Postage Stamps, the 1983 counterfeiting of the 20-cent flag. The FBI featured the mastermind behind the counterfeit 20-cent flag in 1983 on the nationally televised program America's Most Wanted, not once, not twice, but 3 times. Long before James Allen Croy, 45, the gentleman you see on the screen, convinced a commercial printer in suburban Los Angeles to print more than 6.85 million bogus 20-cent flag sheet stamps. He had been in and out of jail several times in several states. For example, in July 1966, then 28-year-old Croy and a 19-year-old college student were arrested for manufacturing and selling fake pep pills in Georgia. At truck stops, a bottle of 1,000 pep pills sold for $60. Croy served 2 years in prison in Los Angeles for the stamp counterfeiting conviction. He immediately returned to crime, conning $400,000 from 150 investors buying fake shares of ownership in thoroughbred horses in Maryland. In his 2014 book, More Stamp Counterfeiting, The Perfect Crime, author Howard Peschel presents how the U.S. Postal and Treasury Department investigators, the Secret Service, and the Los Angeles Police Department solved the case of $1.37 million of fake stamps, something authorities said was the largest stamp counterfeiting in the history of the United States Postal Service. Croy evaded authorities following his car in LA Expressway traffic, even after they obtained a court-authorized tracking device on his car while he was checking the post office box. The LAPD helicopter later picked up the beeping signal, and authorities were able to arrest Croy at his home. He recruited, let me advance this, he recruited Monty Clyde Haller Sr., 43, owner of Godspeed Print Shop in Van Nuys, California, Industrial Park. And the counterfeiting of bogus stamps was the perfect con job in Croy's mind. He obtained mailing lists from pornography dealers, stuffed envelopes with fake advertisements for films, and waited for the money to flow into 5 post office boxes. Why the perfect crime? Croy surmised no one was going to run to the local police to complain that they ordered porn and did not receive the profits. On the flip side, for stamp collectors, however, Wayne Youngblood said in the Lynn Stamp News Postal Counterfeits column on May 20th, 1991, quote, "If the counterfeits were all used on pornographic mailings, their chances of being saved, particularly on envelope, are slim." This is because much of this product and material is quietly disposed of by those who possess it. My research, however, shows 1 of 4 covers that was mailed by Croy, and that's this figure, this image. It's 1 of 4 surviving envelopes and contents intact, confiscated by the postal investigators, which was not destroyed of those millions and millions that they printed. So what foiled the mastermind? It was the omission of phosphorescent tagging on the fake 20-cent flags that tripped up Croy and Haller. The surface of stamps glow in the blacklight on a machine finding the stamps for canceling. The automated stamp canceling machine rejected 1,200 letters at the Anaheim post office. Mail handlers agreed something looked suspicious. They reported this to postal investigators and an examination by Postal Crime Laboratory. Officials declared them counterfeit and opened the mail. They found the letters containing the advertisement for quote. To locate the stamp counterfeiters, the Postal and Treasury Department officials, investigators worked with the Los Angeles Department, who had been investigating a related pornography swindling case about a year involving an individual named Walton Ray Benton. Freud named one of his shell companies, RB Company, after his alias, Walton Ray Benton. His letters were pre-addressed with return an envelope for payment to the Benton Company of Anaheim, California. You can see the envelope there. The Los Angeles Times newspaper on August 30th, 1983, first reported the largest seizure of bogus stamps in the country. That was more than 2 months before Lynn's Stamp News reported the seizure on July 4th, 1983. Lynn's printed a black and white photograph of the 20-cent flag forgery, stating it wouldn't fool many collectors, but apparently good enough to carry about 250,000 pieces of direct mail promoting pornographic films. Indeed, the photograph shows a crudely torn stamp. The fakes were printed on sheets of paper measuring 8.5 by 11, just like common ordinary typing paper or computer paper. The sheets were uncut and found in 11 by 9 stamp configuration, totaling 99 stamps a sheet. The crude perforating, however, does not match the other fakes that Haller produced. The revised franks that were used on the RB Company envelopes were incorporated a more realistic perforation hole, as you see in this one. And the real intaglio printed stamp and perforation is shown for comparison. I'll bounce back between the two of these. So you see the perforation on this one versus the one that was shown in Lynn's, which was very crude. To me, it looked like it was like a sewing machine with no thread. It was like a sewing machine needle that kind of went up and down and made holes. Where this, and we've not been able to find, and I've asked other people. Unfortunately, all the culprits are dead, so I can't ask them. But he did a pretty good job of improving the perforations of this. And I would just add that in my research on that first job that Croy did with the pet pills, he purchased a pill making machine that had a drug company named on the press, and he was able to compress the sugar and caffeine into the pill. So it was a pretty good forgery of a pill. And so for him to produce a stamp that was very crude and did not look very realistic was not really his method of cheating people. He was a better cheat than that. So the difference between this one is much better compared to the first one. Okay. Besides the omission of the phosphorant tagging, Haller's offset printing used to produce millions of fake 20-cent flag stamps lacked the design detail achieved from the sharp cross-hatching of the real intaglio printed stamps by the Bureau of Engraving and Printing. The enlargement of the fake next to the genuine shows clearly that the offset printing lacks the crisp defined stars of the intaglio, the engraved stamp. So I'll bounce back between these. So this is the engraved, this is the fake, and this is printed on an offset printer. Think of your newspaper, think of magazines, that's offset printing. Think your paper money, maybe nice engraved wedding invitations, things that are genuinely kind of keepsake printing. They're done more by the engraving, like the intaglio. So you can see the difference there. And if you look at my exhibit, you'll see very clearly the difference in the two printings there. So Croy and Haller appeared in the U.S. Magistrate Court in Los Angeles on April 29th, 1983. Bond was set at $100,000 for Croy and $50,000 for Haller, the printer. Both men were in prison in Terminal Island Federal Penitentiary in lieu of bond. This is a low security prison for males located at the entrance of the Los Angeles harbor. Both men pleaded guilty to the stamp counterfeiting in the federal district court in Los Angeles. Printer Haller served 1 year at Terminal Island and was released in September 1983, a year later. Croy, however, was wanted for a 1976 federal fugitive warrant out of Macon, Georgia. For his part, Croy was sentenced to 2 years at Terminal Island and released in August of 1985. Searching newspaper databases for mentions of printer Monty Haller turned up little information suggesting that he led a quiet life after prison. Haller, who had served in the U.S. Navy, lived in Burbank, California at the time of the stamp counterfeiting. Born in 1940 in Illinois, he had been married 3 times and had 2 sons. After prison, he lived in Los Angeles and died in December 2012. Not so for James Croy, who was born in 1938 in Georgia. Newspaper searches showed numerous acts of nonviolent crime, primarily cheating and swindling, arrests and jail time. So obviously he was a lifelong con artist. Going by the alias Bobby Reno Livingston, he was wanted in Texas for charges of unregistered securities, criminal activity, and jumping bond. His national notoriety grew when the FBI had Croy featured 3 times on America's Most Wanted. He also peddled in art, cheating investors out of $4 million of fake collectibles. An office clerk's error allowed Croy to post a $5,000 bond and get out of a Houston jail. He fled and police in 2 states hunted for him. Poor health finally caught up with Croy, now 69. On October 28, 2007, according to newspaper reports, Croy fled to Georgia in search of his second wife. He experienced heart failure, collapsed unconscious, and was taken to the intensive care unit at the hospital in Albany, Georgia. He was identified and the county sheriff was notified. When Croy became able to travel, the sheriff extradited him back to the Houston jail. He died in Texas on November 10th, 2007, 2 weeks after he was caught. So ended the life of the mastermind behind the 20-cent flag stamp 24 years earlier. So I'll stand for questions if there are any. Yes.
Examples survive of the counterfeit.
Four. And one of them is here.
How much do they estimate actually got used of this?
250,000. Yeah.
So none of them made it. All of them were used. In essence, by him.
Yeah.
He didn't
Yeah.
survive.
My research showed that Croy had the millions of stamps printed because he was intending to sell them to businesses and to other lowlifes, to other criminals who could use them. But he was foiled by the lack of phosphorus tagging and they were spotted. Yeah, good question. Yeah.
No.
Yes.
I just asked him.
Yeah.
So he had perforator in here.
Yeah, you mentioned about the gun. What was the gun?
Sure. That is a question. John Hotchner, who is another authority on counterfeits, and I will tell you that I acquired the example from John, and he had acquired it in a large collection that he purchased. And either Neil or I have been able to determine how Haller, the printer, was able to perforate these stamps so well that they could pass through the mail as they did. Because the ones that as I showed you, the ones that were shown in Lynn's were really crude. And I mean, anybody looking at it would say these aren't real. But he did a pretty good job of improving it. Yep. So
That's the real.
this is the real. There's the fake. And you can see how dull it is. I mean, this is quite a close up. I had it done in a photography shop. So it was a good camera. Yeah. So there's the full view, and there's the counterfeit, the full view. So I think it's interesting. Look at the bleeding, the bleeding in the flag to the right of the stars. See, you've even got which is pretty common in the stamp, the bleeding of the ink into the red. So that was interesting that he even copied some of that. So, yep. Well, thank you very much. I want to give a shout out to the Riley County, Kansas Genealogical Society Library. I did a whole summer of research at this genealogical library because they had access to databases of newspapers all over the country for people that like to study their family history. Well, I studied stamp counterfeiters. And so I bought a membership and I had free access to all of their databases. So heads up, if you're doing research, check out your county historical society. They're got a good library. Yes.
Counterfeiter stamps. Have there been more since then? Prevalent?
Yes. While this at the time in 1983, that was the largest case that the investigators cracked. Today, my understanding is that the Chinese are counterfeiting current stamps and doing an excellent job.
This looks at the sheets of this counterfeit, and especially maybe price.
Right. And the post office does check online and ads and things for like that to stop this kind of counterfeiting and the swindling of the postage. Yeah. So it's pretty prevalent today.
You say Wayne Youngwood,
Is he here? Well, I will thank him for his quote. Thank you. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.